If you're looking for a trusted and reliable source of news and information, check out my friends over at patriotpost.us. A link for them will be in the description box, so when you go over there and subscribe, tell them that ABL sent you. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about 2020 Democratic presidential hopeful Andrew Yang Gang breaking down in tears during a Des Moines, Iowa gun safety forum. Now, there is a lot to quote unquote unpack here, as the cool kids would say. But before we even get into it, let's roll the clip. In this clip, you'll see what he said, how he was responding, how he was moving and acting. After we get done watching that, I'll analyze that video, give you my 2 cents, and then I'll wrap it on up with a nice bow on top. So without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
My beautiful 4-year-old daughter, Dayla, was struck by a stray bullet March 2011. My son, my daughter's twin brother, witnessed what happened that day. She died 2 days later.
I have a 6 and 3-year-old boy. I was imagining. I was imagining it was one of them that got shot and the other saw it. I'm so sorry. The biggest downside of running for president for me has been that I don't get to see my family very much. So I get pictures, I FaceTime, I see pictures of my boys, and just that scene that she described, I'm sorry, it's like very, very affecting. You're right that when there's a gun in the household, you're more likely to have a child get shot or the owner get shot than to kill, let's say, an intruder into the house. Those are just numbers. Those are just the facts. So one of the things we can do, and it's very hard to get into Americans' houses where all of these guns are, but if we can convince Americans that personalized guns are a good idea, then again, if the child gets a hold of the gun and they can't do anything with it, then it just becomes a very heavy, expensive prop.
Okay, so you saw that, you heard that, you see what's going on. Now, before I go any further, I just want to say rest in peace to all those that passed away at the recent mass shootings in Dayton, Ohio, and El Paso, Texas. It's sad whenever anyone loses their life. An innocent person is very sad when they lose their life. So I want to say rest in peace. And I don't want to take away from the tragedy that those 2 incidents were. However, I got to be real talking about Andrew Yang and what I feel like were crocodile tears for political expedience. It's very simple. You're in Des Moines, Iowa, right? You are trying to become the presidential candidate for the Democratic Party in 2020. You're hopeful right now. Your numbers aren't really doing that well. You got into the debate by the hair on your chinny chin chin. It wasn't really, an overwhelming mountain of support for you like there is for establishment people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, etc. You're trying to get more recognition. So what better way than to go out there on stage and start crying over the victims of gun violence? I'm not saying they can't hit you emotionally. I mean, you got youngins and youngins die in the situation. I feel where you're coming from 100%. However, based upon what Andrew Yang has said in the past and what he's not said in the past, it lets me think that those tears weren't really all the way genuine. All right. First things first, kids get killed every day almost in the US of A. Okay, from gun violence. Now, some would just say, oh, the violence in the black community, violence in the ghetto, violence in low income areas, whether it's white, Hispanic, or whatever, it's because of poverty, it's because of gangs, and it don't really count. It's gangs killing each other. First of all, it's not even all the way true. Yes, there is plenty of gang violence, gang on gang violence, but there are plenty of innocent folks that get caught up in a crossfire and plenty of people that get shot without any kind of gang affiliation. It could be an argument. It could be over drugs. It could be a domestic dispute. It's not always, quote unquote, gang violence in these low income ghetto areas. Okay, first thing. Second thing is, even if it were to be all gang violence, you still got plenty of kids that are being killed in the situation. Little kids, I'm talking about 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. There was a case I covered probably about 2 years ago or so where a little girl, Jamila Bowden, was shot and killed while on her mother's bed doing her homework. Okay. She had to have been, about 8, 9 years old, a little girl doing the right thing in the house, not outside, not gang bang and none of that, doing homework, get shot and killed because a bullet came through the house. You know, you got two guys outside fighting over drugs and then, straight bullet go through the house, hit her. That's a common thing. I remember being in West Virginia and one of my cousins came from Little Rock. And he was telling me about how they would have their TVs on the ground, like no TV stand or nothing. The TV set would be on the floor because they would have to duck down so much from the drive-by shootings and the bullets be coming through the windows. And if you were sitting on the couch, you can get hit and killed. That was like a normal everyday part of their life. So you have kids that get killed all the time. I remember I was in elementary school and one of my classmates got murdered. Okay. I'll say that one more time if you didn't hear me. I was in elementary school and one of my classmates got murdered. I had to have been like 4th or 5th grade. And they had to tell us the next day that one of our classmates had got killed. She stayed in the project. She opens the door when somebody comes to the door. I'm not sure if she's by herself or whatever, but she opened the door and then the person on the other side immediately shoots her and kills her. A little girl, couldn't have been no more than about 9 years old. All right. That happens a lot. I think Yang is from New York. And if I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comments below. If he's from New York, he has to know about violence. All right. You got to be hearing about what's happening in New York City, Bronx, Brooklyn, Harlem, etc. You know what's going on with the violence, with little kids being killed just randomly. You know what's going on. So where's your tears for them? Where's your crying for them? Where's your ability to relate to those victims of violence? Okay. Did you get on stage and cry any other time for them? And then beyond just the violence that happens, the gun violence, the whatever that affects children in the United States every day, aside from mass shootings, let's talk about the abortion. We got to talk about that. That's the elephant in the room. Andrew Yang is running as a Democrat, and there's no Democrat that I've seen who is a pro-life person. Not one person, not at least in the national space. Not anybody trying to become the president. Everybody is quote unquote pro-choice, which means pro-murder of innocent babies in the womb. All right. Now, before I go any further, some would say, what about rape, incest? That's like less than 1% of all abortions. That's not even really in discussion. 99.9% of the time, it's an elective procedure because that's what they want to do. It's for convenience. It's not really for any kind of medical issue or any kind of violence that was done upon them. It's just not the case. But anyway, Andrew Yang is extremely pro quote unquote choice person. If you don't believe me, listen to him say it for himself.
I think that it's ridiculous that men have any input on women's reproductive rights. I think that all male legislators should just leave the room and let women decide what they would like to do. I've said that if men got pregnant, there would probably be abortion and contraception available in every convenience store. So as a man, I think that women should have total reproductive freedom and that if women were to make the decisions for themselves, I'm sure we know what they would decide.
So he's like, okay, all the men get out, let the women deal with it. You have no place there. So you cool with women just killing their babies, right? That's not really a problem. You don't cry for that. You don't cry tears for that. You kind of like laugh and smile when you talk about it, like it's not really a serious thing. Now, that's not me making it up. You saw it with your own two eyes. I'm just analyzing the video that I looked at. You go to his website, it's the same thing on there. So from his words on his website, it's all there. So I'm not making it up. These are facts. Andrew Yang is a super pro-choice person, believes in the murder of innocent children in the womb. It's not really a problem. But then when there's a mass shooting, a tragedy that happens, you want to cry for that. All I'm saying is, like, let's have our viewpoints about life be consistent. If a child that's 3 years old who was killed in the shooting is sad, which it is, it must also be sad when an unborn child in gestation is also killed. Okay. And they're pushing for laws right now, not necessarily Andrew Yang, he's not in government, but I'm talking about the left. They're pushing for laws right now that would allow abortion up until the point of birth, 8, 9 months, Right before the baby comes out, you could still have an abortion and kill the baby. All right. Now, some would say, oh, that'll never happen. That's not really a real thing. Well, why are they trying to pass laws to allow it? If it would never happen, what's the point in having a law to allow it? It doesn't make any sense. Let's have the laws reflect what you're actually going to do. If there's a law that says you can have an abortion up until 9 months, why would it never happen? It's obviously going to happen. Somebody's going to try to do it. If a doctor refuses, that's grounds for a lawsuit. So I don't think anybody wants to deal with that on their back. As I close, I want to say this. While I empathize with the families of those who have been affected by the tragedies and the recent mass shootings, I also empathize with the families of those who have lost their loved ones, their children, in violence all over the United States that is not classified as a mass shooting, that does not get as much coverage as the mass shootings. And I also empathize with the babies who had no say in the matter, innocent children killed during gestation. I feel for all of them equally. I'm not going to pick one thing to be equally upset about for my own purposes, to get my name out there more for political expedience or anything like that, which is the case, in my humble opinion, with Andrew Yang. It's about trying to gain points, trying to put your name out there more. Same thing with people like Beto O'Rourke. You had a shooting at El Paso, Texas. He's out there immediately giving little campaign talks, this, that, and the third, trying to capitalize on it. Again, my opinion, that's kind of how it looks on the outside. These people are trying to do whatever they can to get more name recognition. Joe Biden right now is leader of the pack. He's stumbling and bumbling, but it doesn't matter. The establishment is behind him. That's all that pretty much matters. And I think I'll leave that right there for now. So what do you think? Do you think that Andrew Yang was putting on the show? Were there crocodile tears being presented in Des Moines, Iowa for his campaign to try and get a little bit more attention? Or am I wrong? Am I being insensitive? Whatever your comments are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.